Hello everyone and welcome back to my game development series. This week we reached 50 subscribers, which is absolutely amazing, thank you so much. My goal is to reach 100 subscribers before the end of this year, so if you haven't subscribed yet, then make sure you do so right now. With that being said, this week I worked on the cinematics system. You might already know that my game is gonna be heavily story driven, and so the cinematic system is really one of these very important components that goes into my game. Now, to make sure we're on the same page, let me give my definition of a cinematic. For me, a cinematic is literally anything that can be scripted. It could be a single line of dialogue, or it could be a very complex cutscenes with advanced stuff going on. There are multiple different ways in which we can make these cinematics. One of the ways would be to use Unity's built-in timeline. Unity's timeline is very similar to how video editing software works. You basically throw in a bunch of clips in the timeline. Each clip is represented by a rectangle, and these clips are organized in tracks. A track is one row of clips, usually of the same kind. Here I've highlighted a video track. We can then play through all of these clips in a linear fashion from left to right, and we've got our movie. The problem with a timeline like this is that it is not interactive. One of the things we often do in video games is we record multiple versions of a line of dialogue such that when we have to trigger it multiple times, it wouldn't get repetitive. However, we can't just insert those variations into a timeline because oftentimes they don't have the same length, so the longer ones wouldn't fit in and the shorter ones would have a pause after them, which is not ideal. So that's the reason why I won't be using these timelines, and instead I will define my timeline as a piece of code. This is an example of what that piece of code could look like. We can give our cinematic a name. In this case I called it cinematic track. IEnumerator means that this is implemented as a coroutine, which gives us the powerful ability to pause this piece of code. That is something that will come in handy later. We can now play through this cinematic track as if it was a normal timeline. The first thing it does is it plays a conversation, and next week I'll have an entire video on the dialogue and conversation system, since that is something that deserves a video of its own. The cinematic track will then wait until the conversation is finished. This is really powerful because no matter how long the conversation actually takes, the cinematic track won't advance unless it is finished. And when it is finished, it will move the player and the NPC to a certain waypoint. A waypoint is just a location, and we define it by placing an invisible object in our level. That is much easier than having to type out the coordinates of that location in our code. Since these move to commands are the last thing in our cinematic track, it is now finished. This system on its own is already pretty powerful, but it gets even better if we combine multiple of these tracks. For example, let's say we want the player and the NPC to walk to a location, and once they arrive they have to perform some kind of action, but only if they are both at the target location. As a developer, we can't know who will arrive first, so we'll have to implement a system that will let the player wait for the NPC when the player arrives first, and that will let the NPC wait for the player when the NPC arrives first. The way we do that is with this piece of code. Don't worry, I'll walk you through the entire thing. So we first define two cinematic tracks, one for the player and one for the NPC. The first command in both of their tracks is to move to a waypoint. I represent the duration of that action with the length of these rectangles. Of course, we don't know how long that will take beforehand, but in this case I will assume that the player is gonna arrive first. Let's now play through this as if it was a timeline. The next command in both the player and the NPC's track will wait until each of them has arrived. In this case, the player already arrived, which means that his track will be able to advance. The next command in his track is to signal something to the NPC, and the signal that he will send is player at waypoint. We can give this any arbitrary name. The next thing the player track will do is to wait until he receives the signal that states NPC at waypoint. This will make the player wait until the NPC is at the waypoint. Since the NPC hasn't arrived yet, he will keep moving towards the waypoint. At this point in time, the NPC also arrived, and now his track will continue, and he will set a signal called NPC at waypoint. Once again, this is an arbitrary name that we can pick ourselves. He will then continue and wait to receive a signal that states player at waypoint. Right now, the player and the NPC are both waiting for a signal that states that the other one is already arrived. Since both of these signals have been set, both of their tracks can continue to play an animation. And once that played through, both the cinematic tracks have finished. Do note that this system does not care who will arrive first due to the way it is designed. So if the NPC would arrive first, the signals would be sent in the opposite order, but the animations would still be synchronized. I also did a bunch of other stuff this week. I went walking with some friends, I tried to solve a problem with my computer together with Arman, who's a member of my Discord server. You should definitely join us over there, by the way. And I had quite a long conversation with Machabulous, who's a fellow YouTuber. He will post that on his channel somewhere in the future, and I'll definitely keep you updated on when that is. This week there won't be any source code in the description because it's spread across multiple files and kinda complex. However, if you do want to get access to the entire source code of my game, you should consider becoming a Patreon on patreon.com/floatymonkey. The link will be in the description. Next week we'll take a look at the conversation system. If you don't want to miss that video, then make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon. If you enjoyed this video, then please give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.